Welcome back to the Fraudulent Reaction Show. I'm your analyst for the week, and let's get right into these very special Valentine's Day power rankings. Let's begin with the teams we've fallen out of love with, the teams who haven't made the Power 10. I feel sorry for these guys because realistically, if you're not in the Power 10, it does mean you don't have a Valentine, and that's a pretty rough situation to be in. Hopefully, in the coming weeks you can correct that, and maybe by this time next year, you'll find yourselves sliding in to 10 or 9. Now, Falcons, of course, have had to move off. Honestly, they've done very little to impress us. All we've really given them credit for is the name value, the core they've acquired. Sort of a VRS ranking buff in terms of who they've actually managed to sign, but never really anything we've seen on the server truly impressing. So Falcons have to go. They're out of the top 10. They could come back, given the pedigree of their players. I'm not saying they're done for the year. I'm just saying that right now, I've got no reason to be excited. The other team that are also off is Mouse Sports. We got to see them play at Katowice with Zelex as a stand-in, and as I projected, seeing as I'm someone who watches Academy play and has eyes, it wouldn't go particularly well, and it didn't. We're still waiting to see what they look like with Spinks, but I'm not going to give them credit based on an assumption that maybe they could replicate something Shuhei was doing and integrate a new rifler like that. I'm going to say, you're off the list until you play and start winning again, because for now, I have no reason to believe you can win, given how you've played in 2025, no matter the roster. Are you tired of looking like a chump in game, sick of opening cases and getting trash skins? Check out Skin Club via my link in the description for a 7% deposit bonus. For gamers 18 or older, Skin Club is a case opening service who run a provably fair opening algorithm to give you truly random outcomes. Skin Club's battles mode has been upgraded, adding new things like crazy, team, and share modes just to make every roll a little more intense and a little more fun. I played a battle or two and managed to win some pretty crazy skins and upgraded a group of them into a gorgeous MP9 hot rod. Perfect for some gold stickers. There is an awards event going on right now, so you can earn event points just by playing on the site. These points can be redeemed for cases, skins, and entries into huge giveaways. Skin Club accept a wide variety of payment methods from cards and PayPal to skins themselves, as well as a range of crypto coins. Remember to play responsibly using the self-care tools provided, and use my link in the description to get a 7% bonus. A big thank you to Skin Club for supporting my channel. Now at number 10, I do have Virtus Pro, and yes, I'm as surprised as you are to see them here. Realistically, consider this a warning to the teams who haven't managed to make it into the top 10, that they should be playing better, and if they don't, teams like Virtus Pro are going to continue to thrive. Now they historically did, but back when they had Jame, there were times where they would just stay relevant by default. A lot of teams were floundering, they had a set idea of how to play, and they executed well. It's not quite the same thing here, but to be fair to Electronic, as much as we have critiqued them in the past, this hasn't been a catastrophe in terms of the way they've been playing CS. And they do have a good amount of firepower, despite certain players like Flip noticeably falling off a little bit. Fame stepped up a bit, Flamus has had a lot of impact, Icy's been rather solid, especially on certain maps, but all in all, it's been more than enough firepower to keep them relevant and allow them to beat some of the messier, scrappier, uglier looking teams that we have currently in the top end of the scene. If you are a team like Falcons, Liquid, Mouse, you should really consider yourself better than these guys. They are unproven, untested, new IGL. There's every excuse that could apply to you applies to them. And they're not losing as many games. In fact, they're beating some bigger names. So step it up. At number 9, we have my shame, my horror, my heroic. Man, my beloved, my once betrothed, ripped apart, taken from me by Big in one of the most embarrassing series I've ever witnessed. Just as I published my power rankings. It's frustrating because prior to that, it seemed fair enough to have them as high as I did. Then it immediately looked ridiculous. But I'm just going to say this. All hope is not lost. They've avenged that loss with a 2-1 online win. Sure, it's online. Sure, it's 2-1. But you got to win those games anyway. And honestly, this isn't the first time we've seen this core collapse. And they bounced back before. We saw them at the RMR have an absolute mare. Go straight out despite being a team in form, a team who'd proven a lot. We saw them here lose to Big in convincing fashion despite having a lot of positive signs coming through, especially with a new player in Tnir, really starting to thrive. And this pretty much derailed them, but I believe in Soar's ability to put a train back on its tracks. They look pretty good online since then. I think they should qualify for Dallas. They beat Astralis today. I'm pretty happy with what I've seen from Heroic all throughout 2025, except for that one series. I'm going to keep them in the top 10. Argue against me if you want, but they've beaten most of the teams who have not made it here, or beaten higher caliber opposition. Now, you know this as the Overreaction Show. We're at number 8. We're talking Gamer Legion. A team who realistically don't have the pedigree in terms of the names on the server to be up here. But in terms of the results, they've proven they got actually a realistic chance of being a top 8 team in the world. They technically finished 7th to 8th at IEM Katowice. To me, that doesn't mean much, but they took a map off of Spirit. They beat some legit teams, and they looked competitive all the way through. Honestly, Ash has made another miracle happen. He has made Rez perform. Now, that has taken someone literally 7 years to manage to replicate. It hasn't been since Oakland 2017 we've really seen back-to-back Rez series that are actually impressive. And Ash has done it a couple times already. So all I have to say is look at who they've beaten, look at how they're playing, and think about this. They're still quite young. They still haven't shown you everything they've got. This is almost a projection, not just a power ranking point. This Game of Legion side is dangerous. Do not come into a series with them feeling cocky, because guess what? There's a bold man on the other side with a strap book ready to take you apart. At number 7, we have G2. They've literally only beaten Falcons at Katowice, which that's not very impressive considering Falcons have now fallen off the list given their own deficiencies. Mongolz seems to have lost a lot of his consistency in his form. I think he's still like a 1.2 rated player for the year, but we all know in the games where they're losing, he's looking more and more average, more and more forgettable. Not necessarily that he's missing a lot of shots, but he's also not going for a lot of plays we usually respect him for, we love him for. It's quite difficult to root for him. The rest of the roster, whilst we have seen decent performances out of Mabs MD, out of Heavy God, and hell, even out of Hunter, they're still not playing at an insane level. They don't have the calling, the coaching, the structure, the ideas to fall back on if the individuals aren't hitting shots. Now, I'm genuinely worried about G2's future because they're literally here because of who the individuals are, the fraggers. But that credit that I've given them, that respect is wearing thin. And when it runs out, they might have to be off the list entirely. I don't know what event they're playing next. I know they're not playing Cluj-Napoca. But the results at that event might drive them further away from the top 6, which is somewhere they should have been as a bare minimum this year, yet are struggling to maintain. At number 6, we have FaZe, and I think we need a round of applause. They won a map pick. They picked a map and won it. Counter-Strike 101 at a pro level. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Didn't think I'd be saying this, talking about FaZe this year, but they missed playoffs at Katowice. You know, they keep Cha-Cha sliding down, you know, slide to the bottom. And I'm not sure who the hell the stars are going to be on this team right now. If you look at how well they've played, which is not very this year, you look at how the individuals are performing, there's not a lot to root for. There's no one exception, this is letting us down. It's just everyone's pretty mediocre. Everyone's still figuring it out. Now, Liege is supposed to be their new best player. Realistically, that's how that move is supposed to transpire. They get a Liege in, he becomes their star, and he's able to take those opening fights, lead the charge, be the spear point, and get them victories. Instead, he can't seem to play even okay Counter-Strike on the maps they pick, leading them to, well, quite often disappoint. His nuke has been awful, they've been reliant on it. Brokey and Rain, and to a certain extent Frozen, are trying to pick up the slack in different areas, but it's just not working out. Elige was supposed to be the star of the team, and they haven't been able to integrate him, haven't been able to unlock him, and make him an explosive fragger. So far, I'm very disappointed in what I've seen. One valid series win, I think, all year. That's about it. And Carrigan can't seem to outcall his player's form, which is tragic. FaZe keep going down, and so do a lot of the established teams from last year with their current level of play. Do you hear that? It's that bloodthirsty horde that are back again. God damn it, we built an entire wall. We kept them out just until Katowice, then boom, they're back. The Mongolian horde. Mongolz at number 5, and well, look, it's not a huge set of results to rely on. You know, they only beat one top 5 team, and that's, you know, Eternal Fire, already a hard case for me to make for a lot of people. And prior to this week, they didn't have another victory against a top 10 team. If we talk about where they were in the power rankings, their Game of Legion win at the time wasn't that special. Now, I've since then given them a lot of credit, Game of Legion that is, so Mongolz do get something from that, but most of the reason they are here is firstly a caveat, and secondly, a bit of generosity. Now, the caveat is, of course, Senzu played this entire event with a broken arm, or broken hand, or broken something. He had a cast on, and despite that fact, they still made top 6 at Kato. You know, they still showed up to a prestige event and made playoffs, despite probably their most explosive, most critical playmaker right now not having even half of what he needs to really perform. He doesn't have prep coming in. He doesn't have a working wrist. Fair enough. You underperform. The team struggles. It is what it is. Blitz deserves so much credit, though, for stepping into some of those sort of gaps voided by Senzu in his injury. Fragging out, being the god tier fragging IGL we know he is, and that really Mongolz need him to be in these sorts of scenarios. Next time we see Mongolz, hopefully it's with a healthy Senzu, and I'm proven entirely right about who they are. They are still a major playoff level team, a team who can beat almost anyone on their day, and as well a team who will just take care of business against inferior rosters with weaker map balls and weaker individuals. That's of course where the generosity comes in. They were a very strong team towards the end of last year. That's roughly what I'm judging them on. It's a combination of this Kato run, the caveat, and how they played towards the end of last year. This may be egregious. Some of you may have protestations, but let me remind you, top 4 at Kato is nothing to sniff at. Mongolz at number 5. At number 4, we have Eternal Fire. We have the two-face of Counter-Strike right now. There's two sides to this Eternal Fire team. The first one is a ceiling. A ceiling that is literally insanely high. On their day, Eternal Fire have proven they can beat literally everyone except maybe Spirit. I don't think they have a victory over Spirit, but they have series victories over Na'Vi, over Vitality, over Mouse, over so many of the established teams from last year. And coming into this year, they've just gone and reiterated that by beating a bunch more of the best teams. That's their ceiling. That's the team that smashed FaZe. You know, a 13-4 then an OT win. That's a smashing in a series, I'm sorry. They have proven as well that their signing of Jota was not in vain. He finally had a top-rated series. Sure, it's all based off an insanely dominant Anubis, but that's exactly what you signed him for. That was one of his iconic maps whilst playing with Sangal. So that's a huge victory for them, displaying Jota's ability to actually step in and carry, you know, adding to that depth of firepower. Major deserves fragging IGL credit. He's a better shooter than Carrigan, Snacks, Alexi B, Chopper, all of those guys right now. Comfortably. It's not a debate for me. He has round-winning impact time and time again, a key part of what allows them to be such a deep and diverse squad, just in terms of the firepower and who's getting shot. So, Eternal Fire, that's the ceiling. That's what it's built off of. I mean, you add in the fact that we already know Xantares is a god-tier rifler. We saw him absolutely daddy a liege on Nuke when they smashed FaZe. Like, this guy has been amongst the elite in terms of riflers for so long. The fact that it's never going to stop is just absolutely insane. The other side to Eternal Fire is the face that's burnt. The face where if we're not hitting all those initial shots, if we're not getting pop-off performances left, right, and center, where's our game plan? Who's going to come forth with ideas in the mid to late round? There seems to be a certain lack of calling flexibility, of improvisation in the mid to late round for Eternal Fire. Abilities to go outside of the game plan and find another way to beat teams. They have struggled immensely with that, and it's meant that teams that have been able to challenge them outright, anti-strat a little bit, hit their shots, and pose them questions, have been beating them. That's the floor for Eternal Fire. It's so low. Now, it's not going to be as low as some of the other teams on this list, even towards like the back end. They've managed to improve that. But when a Mongolz comes out, punches them in the mouth and says, all right, try something else, Eternal Fire struggled. And that's what's going to limit them in the long run. But that ceiling is so high, their firepower so diverse and so explosive, they have to sit here at number 4 because no one else has proven, realistically, that they can consistently beat them. Hell, most teams haven't proven they can beat them at all. At number 3, of course, is Na'Vi. Yep, they've somehow managed to move down. Well, somehow. It makes sense. They won in the grand final of this event. They did beat Spirit. Congratulations. Everyone do the little polite golf clap. Shame it was in the group stage, though, and not in the semi, which is where we really wanted it to happen if we're Na'Vi. Wonderful was anything but, and it's starting to make everyone wonder, did Simple really try and make a comeback again? Because, I mean, he's been yapping a lot on Twitter recently. It might be a good time to prove it. Na'Vi Norper is going to hit his shots, and look, if he's not going to hit the boring shots, he can at least rescue rounds, he can find rifle impact, he can do the things that Imma and JL struggle to do with consistency, but that actually ends up winning Na'Vi big series and big rounds. On that note, it really does feel like there's only one consistent star that I can rely on to show up and deliver the kind of shots he needs to map, and that is Bit. JL, when he's on, he makes the impossible happen, and that's been the key to Na'Vi's difficult runs. Now, they had a bunch of easier runs towards the end of last year where I'm talking everything flowed. I don't mean easy as in the opponents, easy as in the Counter-Strike they felt like they were playing. That when the game plan, all works out and everything looks pretty and they have by far the better utility and timing and spacing and everything's perfect, sure, they can win events. But when things got rough and ugly, when they weren't hitting their shots, when IM is a .88 rated bot and they go and win a major, that's off the back of JL miracles. I don't think he's shown us that he can do it for another event. He did it once, it was insane, he won an MVP and basically managed to make HLTV top 5 off the back of it. I struggle to see it happening again. And that's going to be a problem for them moving forward. I made a projection that they wouldn't win an event after April this year, or after the start of April, it's basically the end of March. That timeline might need to move up. They might not win something from the end of February onwards. At this rate, given the fact that they kind of need optimal opponents in the right times, and they also need, in the tougher games, huge things from a literal miracle maker. It's a bit much to ask. Spirit, number 2. Here it is. We finally got our big first flop of the year out of Spirit. Now, at least they wait for the grand final this time. And of course, as we always have with a Spirit flop series, we have Hallie coming out, talking about how we got the mental prep wrong, how we got this wrong, got that wrong. Buddy, I don't know who you've got in your pocket in the management for Spirit, but I know a regular person without connections would have been fired a long time ago for taking this much blame. They cared way too much about that semi-final, that revenge game against Na'Vi, who finally managed to get another series win against them. And it was cool. It was an impressive semi-final. But you need to show up in that grand final. And in that grand final, oh my word. 40 kills in 3 maps for Donk. Abysmal. Absolutely abysmal. Despite the fact that, we saw so much really work for them over the course of the rest of the event, and Donk playing outstandingly. Maybe not his historic 1.7 rating. We've seen some crazy stuff from Donk in Katowice before. But it was more than enough. His form looked strong enough. So the fact that it all flops in the grand final is very disappointing. Now, I did see a stat talking about Magix and his gun round frags, and I don't want to say anything bad about him, to be honest. But a lot of it seemed too little too late. The early round doesn't work out. Magix cleaning up a few kills in the late round typically won't do much. And Zontix, on the other hand, wasn't even able to do that. I was really unimpressed with his fragging overall. And I'm wondering, who else could actually step in and fill a void? Who can step in and have a moment when Donk feels off his game, when he doesn't have that sort of 1.8 rating, ridiculous opening kill type map? Who's actually willing to step forward and bring some heat? If no one, this sort of series can happen again and again and again. All that being said, this was still a grand final. They still look incredibly comfortable for the majority of the event. That one little hiccup against Na'Vi in the groups. Otherwise, they were Spirit. Probably the favourite for Team of the Year still. But right now, just a little bit off the pace. Let's see who's number 1. It's a big fucking surprise, isn't it? It's a real surprise, yeah. Ooh, who's going to be number 1? Is it the team that won Katowice? Yes, of course it's the team that won Katowice. It's Vitality at number 1. You don't win any prizes for guessing that. My fears have been put on hold. I did express some doubts, some worries. I'm seeing a ZywOo that's, ZywOo. He puts up all his numbers. The team just kind of attends. And they win some games. They might make a final. But they're not really a championship caliber team, not with consistency, because there's simply no rifle support. That was not the case here. That was not the case at all. Rops, FlameZ, both managed to step up. They put up 1.2 ratings, I think, across the event. Very strong performances out of Rops especially. I mean, FlameZ was more up and down. Explosive for a minute, quiet for another. Rops was far more consistent. Absolutely demolished Spirit on what is usually a home map for them in Dust 2. Some ridiculous shooting. I mean, you watch some of the kills where he's especially defending that B bomb site. He has no right to get multiple, and yet he still manages to. So Vitality got what they paid for out of Rops at this event. If they keep getting it, then all of a sudden, yeah, they probably take over as favourites for Team of the Year. We have to see it happen again, though. So far, it did take some integration. It did get a bit awkward towards the beginning. I want to see them do it more. Now, Apex, quite importantly, showed that not only can he talk it, he can walk it. This was an impressive fragging event for him, as well as, having fun yelling at a petulant child in Gravity who, he refuses to respect his elders. And I think he's a solid little player, but it was pretty amusing to see him talk all that shit and still manage to lose. And then Apex stand up and yell. I mean, composure? Not really Apex's forte, is it? I mean, he's more of an emotional guy who's going to wear his heart on his sleeve. And hell, if it works, if he wins, keep on doing it. Go crazy. Yell all you want. The W is all that matters. Alright, that's the Power 10. You might have noticed I'm not really doing other segments on these. It's just because it got too long to edit and it got kind of awkward. Yeah, I might do more fast-paced ones for the like orbs and riflers if I have time for like members, but otherwise, yeah, it's just not worth it. But I do enjoy doing the power 10, so I'm going to keep doing that for now. But alright, if you enjoyed, leave a like, leave a comment, tell me your thoughts on any of these placements, who you'd move, who you wouldn't. Sub for more content. Remember that members get access to a bunch of cool stuff. And yeah, that's all for this one. Goodbye.